Hey, this is Aaron Kennedy. I'm here with James Davis again from C-Level. How you doing, James?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me again. Good to see you.
You too. I always screw it up. Like I'm always like C-Level at Pax8, C-Level of Pax8, Pax8 sponsored by C-Level. No,
One of our logos is sea level powered by Pax8.
Powered.
So,
That's right. Powered. See, I knew I was gonna screw it up. Um, well, so last time we were talking about taking, managing service profitability, but managing that, and obviously from a profitability, you can glean that there's a finance angle to that. So, and we talked a little bit about how service managers tend to, whoa, I don't really want to get into the finance. I just want to make sure my guys are good at, crushing through tickets or, or keeping the customer happy and all those things, which are important. Um, but if you're um, doing all that and just kind of ignoring the financial side, you're really kind of flying blind. And so, like, I mean, at the end of the day, we are a business. So just because you keep one customer happy doesn't mean you're overall going to grow or things like that.
yeah, I don't think many of us have truly started our businesses as a not-for-profit organization.
Right.
And we spoke so much about how important the financial aspects are, and we've touched a bit about other metrics earlier on in our series. And one thing I wanted to start getting the conversation going and flying around is being more proactive. Like most of the MSPs that I come across, all their metrics and the way they've structured their service teams is all about, are we reacting to the issues as they come in? And that's important, don't get me wrong, like it's important that we're managing expectations with clients and helping them get back up and running for as sort of as soon as possible. But it's not really a managed service. We're still acting like we're a break fix company.
Yeah.
Um,
Just a help desk that gets paid a fixed amount.
yep, yep. And there's very few. I don't know about you, Aaron, but there's very few MSPs that I come across that actually operate as a managed service. It is very much like what you just said. It's a fixed fee for a help desk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel, especially when we start taking the financial aspects into account as well, it's not very efficient and it's not very profitable for our fixed amount that we're getting every month. We're not really stopping and thinking about how can we do service better? How can we stop issues happening in the first place? What can we automate and drive more efficiency through our service desks?
Yep.
Um, just it doesn't seem to be the mindset around the place.
Yeah. I think you're definitely right. It's definitely a lot of I mean, I think there might be a little bit when from what I see out there of I'm going to call problem management light, where people kind of know, hey, this has kind of been a big problem. Like, hey, we're spending a lot of time on Exchange stores. Let's move to Office 365, stuff like that. But in terms of really digging in to understand where is all of our time going, aka money, and how can we make that better, not just even for our own business, but also the experience for the customer is going to be better if they're putting in lower tickets. Then they're spending less time on IT, which means they can focus more on their own business, which is really what they want to do at the end of the day anyway. So just because you're closing up, if you close 100 tickets for a client, great. But I mean, should they be putting in 100 tickets? This is the bigger question.
And the answer should be no. They shouldn't
Right.
be, should they?
Right.
Like and this is where some components of thought need to come into play. Like you mentioned, the problem management. That's a really important thing, and very few MSPs that I come across have any method of problem management. Like you said,
Hmm.
it's typically that problem management light where it's a really big technology change across the board in our stack. Most of the time, it's like that Exchange to Office 365. It's the traditional take back up to the Datto type style. It's more about our stack and standardizing, which is a fantastic thing. But it's never really the more detailed problem management around um, wider technology standards, um, implementing SOPs, better communication methods, automation, and those kinds of thinking. Because often I find people don't have the data to look at, or
Right.
if they do, typically the service managers don't know what to look for
Hmm.
from there. And you know, we've got these PSA systems that we're good at lodging tickets these days. More MSPs than not are doing really well with time entries. So we've got this whole basis of data there, and we can easily categorize our tickets into easily digestible data that we can review and make decisions off.
Right. Right. Yeah, we do that a good bit at Cognition360, and there's a report I'll be happy to share in a second. But one thing that we talk about is, and this is kind of getting back to, do MSPs actually do this at all? And so when I can tell, okay, they're going to get what I'm talking about, and be able to actually do something with it, is, do they even have a position that is devoted to this? Even if it's just a 50% of the time, that's what you're doing. But do they actually have somebody like this? And the more mature ones, I find, will have like a problem management team. And then I also see other ones have what I've heard kind of coined as an alignment engineer, where they'll go and say, here's our stack, and here's customer A, compare that customer to our technical stack, and what's it going to take to build that out. And then they go make a quote to get that customer, and then they go to the next one and they do the same thing, and they're feeding the account management team stuff. And then slowly over time, the customers move to that stack, and then that's when you really start to see benefits of um, what real managed services, where you're actually managing the client and managing that service in a way that is extremely beneficial for you and profit wise, but also insanely better for the customer experience. You've got to, when you hire a technician, you only have to teach him about, these two things, as opposed to 200 different devices, that anything that could be out there. And he's not scrambling to look it up. He just knows because he's done it through 20 times, this week. Um, so let me share that report real quick, because just to give us a base, I'm not going to sit on this report the whole time, but so what we do is, so this is back to what you were talking about, categorizing your tickets, where you can come in and say, and these numbers here are costs in terms of paying engineers. So I'm actually paying engineers. If I click on this button, I'm actually paying engineers $1 million over the past 12 months to do any kind of change. So this is the ticket item. So if I kind of narrow that down to email changes, I'm doing 149,000. And so obviously this is going to be as good as your reporting structure and ticket subtype and item and stuff is. And we did some things to help out with that, run machine learning over this to kind of help categorize this for you if you don't do it yourself. But the point is, you've got someone that can come here and look at this once a week, whatever the cadence may be, to say, hey, why are we spending all this time? Which customer is it where we're spending all this time with? And really just chipping away at this list, where they can come in and really make the whole business more profitable. I mean, you can look at this at the customer level, but more importantly, to our conversation, you can look at this from the MSP as a whole. So doing things like that, I think, really helps with feeding that thing, because I think it's real easy to say, well, let's do problem management, or let's be proactive. And it's like, okay, we're going to be proactive. What do we actually do? Do we just go sit at the customer site? Do we do a bunch of, there's 8 million maintenance checklists you could go out and do. Are they worth it? Are they not? And I think, getting back to what you were saying, you've got just mounds of data that are there. So just guessing what you should do is, I think, where people get lost, and then they just end up giving up and they go back to the reactive style.
And I'm always excited to see these dashboards these days, because back in the day I used to have to do it on pivot
Oh, I know,
tables.
right? Oh,
It was fun. Like now I'm a Excel black magic artist when I do these things in front of other people.
right.
But lot of this isn't difficult to compile. So even
Right.
if you don't have a dashboarding system, you can export all this data out of the PSA straight into a pivot chart.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just showed there with like our most common issues is is the place to start. And even if you don't have the data, this is my anecdotal experience from what I do day to day. There's the top 5 tickets I can guarantee that every MSP is dealing with. So when you look at a typical MSP, at least 70% of their tickets are what I'd class as level one, process-driven work that can be done from a knowledge base article
Mm-hmm.
or a SOP. 70% to 80% is going to be the typical MSP, and then it's going to be somewhere between 10 to 15% level two, and then 5 to 10% is going to be level three work across the generic MSPs around the world. In that 70% of tickets, there's 5 issues that make up the predominant amount of work that level ones are dealing with. First one's printer issues. It's, you get flashbacks from dealing with stupid
Yes,
printer
I
issues.
did. Yep.
So there's when you know that, then it's when you can start digging in. So something like printer issues, what I've seen is people using technology like print text and printer
Mm-hmm.
logic and selling that to the clients. I've legitimately seen reductions of ticket counts from printers from at least 50 to 60% at minimum.
Oh, I believe it. Yep.
It's amazing that sort of structure makes. Second one, spam management. The amount of people that are still checking every dodgy email or
Still dealing
whitelisting
with that.
things for people.
Yeah.
Everyone's still dealing with it.
It's like
There's
the
two
fax
ways to look
machine. It
at
won't go away.
that. Gives me flashbacks too. So, spam management. There's two things to look at. Firstly, there's offerings now from things like Proofpoint that they will take that load for an extra dollar or two per license, where it won't come to you to say if the email's dodgy. They'll deal with it within like 5 to 15 minutes and
Wow.
respond back to the client for like a dollar or two. Right?
Oh,
So
that's worth it 10 times over.
100%. 100%. The other way, probably on top of that, is like end user education. There's a whole opportunity to charge people money to go in and provide education of this is what to look for with dodgy emails. Not just chuck the products out there like Breach Secure Now and things like that. To actually provide either face to face or virtual training with someone actually talking through, answering questions, and making like an instructor-led training.
Mm-hmm.
Not only can you reduce the tickets, all of a sudden you can charge more money and make more money out of these.
Right.
Third one is user management.
Mm-hmm.
So creating new users. Very few people have gone and automated that.
Yep. And
And
there's a lot of products out there that are doing it for you, but there's still, and which, costs money to do and stuff like that. But there's still a lot of that you can do with just kind of built in automatic tools, like even stuff like, um, I've seen it where MSPs, there's like templates in Office 365 they could be using, but they're not. They're going in and they're adding every user and they're adding them at every distribution group. And of course, you're lucky if they're following a checklist. And so there's that component of, oops, I forgot to do that. So then another ticket comes in. Um, but well, yeah, I actually thought you were going to say user management number one. But now when you said printer, I was like, oh yeah, that's probably it.
number 4 is typically password resets.
hmm Which
Like,
just seems crazy because it's just like password reset tool, just do it or change your policy or something. There's so much password management out there right now.
there is, and like even from the base M365 suite, there's a whole self-service
hmm
component built into 365, but no one turns it on. So
hmm
why are we sitting there dealing with these kinds of issues still? And it's a low-cost way of changing it, and ideally you could implement that with a security project upgrade of enforcing MFA and other policies, so
Right.
you can charge for the privilege to set it up.
hmm
Um, and the fifth one is workstation. So it fits into the user management, but the workstation deployments. Like everyone's doing that all the time. But very few people are using a soft or using technology to make it repeatable. I'm still shocked as a non-technical person when I talk to MSPs and I ask, what are you doing for imaging? And I get blank stares.
Right.
Um, there's things like ImiBot that do this stuff really, really well. There's
Right.
projects, roll out Intune. Like there's so many ways to automate and reduce all this time that
Hmm.
you can, that double-edged sword of being able to build a client to help them, because it's not just all these issues affect them. That's what we've got to remember. It's their environments, it's affecting their productivity, it affects their experience. We can upgrade them to a more modern experience that empowers self-service, which reduce our managed services costs. But more importantly, we're providing outcome-based solutions to the clients. And that's where we forget, because we always think about the technology and where our value is providing that support. Actually, our value is providing the good, well-run modern environments for our clients so they're productive and they can make more money themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, I've actually talked to a couple of MSPs that have done this in kind of unique ways, from almost like an incentive standpoint, but not necessarily. So for one of the things that they'll do is they'll come into a new customer. So this is on the sales side, and they say, "Well, how much time are you spending with your existing IT company?" Well, we guarantee that we'll reduce that by 50%. I can't remember exactly what they say, but 50%. And so they have some formula of figuring that out. And I'm sure there's some, salesiness in there. But the point is, to the customer, they're, hey, we're going to make IT problems basically non-existent, and that's their goal. And so they're constantly implementing these technologies of, hey, we're going to have an automatic build that gets deployed, and you're not going to have to deal with it because it's going to be done right every time because we're going to build it, and you're going to go to our stack because this is going to reduce tickets, and this is why, and we're going to have an automation team, and all that kind of stuff. And I think where a lot of people get hung up is, well, it's going to cost $1,000. I'm just making something up. $1,000 to do a self-service password to implement it tool. And I know it doesn't do that for that tool, but and I got to get this customer to pay for it. Well, I kind of have this like mixed feeling about that, because if you don't get them to do it, you're already paying for it. You're paying them to do their IT in some weird way. And so I always say, like, I mean, it might be worth looking at just to do it and you pay for it. Now you want to make sure you got them an agreement and that kind of stuff. Don't want a month to month contract that you're just doing that for. But if you got a 36-month contract and you can't convince them to do that self-service password reset tool, and it's going to cost you 3 times as much to support that client, why would you not do that? Yeah, there's a lot of angles to take that. Um, yep.
What in as a part of this? So we're talking about ticket categorization. You've got to set up your PSA as well. A quick rundown of that for people as well is, like, our recommendations are always based on the ITIL
Hmm.
methodology. Like you flashed it up, you had like the change in incident. That should always be our top level. Our middle layer, the subtype, should always be the area that you're working on, and
Hmm.
then the item is the particulars of that area, whether it's a new user or it's a user removal or something like that, as an off the top example.
Right.
And that gives you that clear data structure to manage from, because then you can segment out what is proactive work, what's incidents, what's problems,
Hmm.
and really start from the high level and be able to drill down into the more granular.
Right.
And even just being able to see your ratio between incidents and service requests is a really
Right.
good indicator of how healthy your environments are. If you're doing more incidents than service requests, you probably don't have very well maintained
Right.
environments in the first
Which
place.
I would say most MSPs probably are. What would you say about having, if we're in the ConnectWise world, different boards that are reactive versus proactive boards? You think that's a good practice?
Very much so. It for two reasons. One, it can tie back to the financial aspect with the
Yeah.
way ConnectWise runs, and business units. Applying different business units by the boards is very important. Um, but changing boards not only help people change their mindset of what they're working on, you're able then to have different statuses and different workflows and different types, subtypes, and items. That the best that you can do, best practice you can do, is splitting out by those sort of reactive incidents and problems to the change and implementation type work, and not have certain types and items in it if it doesn't apply. So it helps people naturally go, there's no install for a firewall on the help desk. Oh, it's a change. That's why.
Right. Yeah.
And that helps slow people down and actually think about it, because
Slow down. Why would I want to do that?
No, we got to go fast, right? We've got to react
Faster.
and help.
We got to close this ticket.
And that automatically puts in change control light.
Right.
All of a sudden someone has to think about it.
Well, yeah. Let me think about this. Is this going to take everything down? Oh, yeah. Maybe I should not do that right now. For sure. The last point is, I think there's probably MSPs out there that are saying, hey, wait a minute, we are doing proactive. I've got two guys that all they do is check backups, and they're fixing backups all the time and stuff like that. And so my response to always that is, I kind of feel like there's two sides of this. There's the defensive side of proactive stuff, where it's just you're checking all the insurance stuff, the AV and the stuff, and kind of making sure that's all working right in case something happens. But there's also like an offensive side, I guess, of this, or an offense, where you're going out and looking for, how do we stop those kind of tickets from coming in, and that kind of stuff. And I think people very rarely kind of have that position, or even just mindset to go out and do that offensive kind of thing. But there's definitely a lot of like, oh yeah, we do proactive all the time, and then when you look at it, we're checking your backups.
I think that's a very, very good point, and it's like everything in our industry, it's the broadness of the term that's just been boiled away to being useless. I like to talk about it as preventative versus proactive versus reactive, because exactly what you're saying, that offensive going out and finding the problems and stopping them before they happen. That's the preventative, and that's exactly what most people don't do. Our proactive is we're proactively doing things ahead of time before it breaks, but we're not actually doing anything to prevent even needing to do those steps in the first place either.
Right.
And that language change helps with the mindset shift. And it doesn't matter what size you are. Like, everyone thinks that you can only be this really mature MSP at a really massive scale. It's just simply not true. Like, I've worked with many small, like 4 or 5 man shops that do this stuff way better than like the 150 seat MSPs, because they're being more precise around what they're doing. It's just purely that mindset of, we need to spend time to do the preventative work and invest ahead of time to reduce our labor burden. And that's how you can stay agile, you can be more profitable, and everyone's having more fun. Because we're not just having to answer the phone and fix everything broken all the time.
Especially the same things over and over. Right. Well, we're running out of time. So we'd love to keep these things going. But I know you're traveling soon. You want to talk about what towns you're hitting? If you want to come see James and talk more about printer issues.
Nothing gets me up in the morning more than talking about printer issues every day. I'm running around ANZ in September, October for the Pax8 roadshows. So I'm going to be visiting Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Canberra, Hobart, and Auckland over that time. So come join in the fun and come hit us up.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time. Little bit of far flight for me, but I'll get you next time.
Well, that'd be fun. You guys will be at IT Nation Connect up on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, we will. That's right. We will. That's right. We'll be there. We're going to this one in Orlando in a couple of months, and then that one too. I guess that one's before that one. That one's like in a few weeks, right?
Yeah,
Gold Coast.
Week.
Oh, wow. Week. Okay. Yeah. Should be a good time. All right, man. Well, it's good catching up with you, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, mate. You too.
All right. See you, mate.